Hi, I'm Amatlekevane, and this is my love letter and my journey to Kenya. Going to Kenya was very nerve-wracking for me because I was like, I've never consciously gone to an African country. I mean, I've been to other African countries. I've been to Ethiopia, I've been to Mozambique, but I went to those countries while I was a child and I didn't understand the politics of those countries. And so coming to Kenya, I had a very different purpose. I really wanted to understand the politics, and I deliberately went around the time where there was a little bit of political turmoil for the girls. And here I am just expressing that I was a bit nervous. I even broke out in my skin because I was like, what am I gonna find there? Like, what are people gonna be accommodating? What's gonna happen? And it was the most wonderful experience of my life. Arriving in Nairobi, one thing that really struck me was how the Uber driver was like, "Oh, since you're a tourist, you probably don't want to see the protests." And I was like, "What?" And I realized that the urban planning of Nairobi and Johannesburg are very similar in that they shelter you from whatever marginalized people are going through. But one of the biggest differences in the urban plannings of these two different countries is that in South Africa, poor areas don't have trees. In Kenya, I saw trees next to mkukus, and it was so fascinating for me because I was like, oh, so what the British did to urban planning in Kenya is very different to what the British and the Dutch did in South Africa. And I wonder why that is different. Maybe because, the prominence of settler colonialism in South Africa is a bit different to Kenya. And even the way that the Kenyan white people act, like they act British, they don't act Kenyan. I don't know if that makes sense. But every morning I'd be so excited to eat mandazi, and this morning we had smocha. Smocha is this thing with chapati. Chapati is so different from roti. I thought it was just the same thing with different names, but it's different. And then it had some salsa type of thing with sauce and the sausage that was really nice. And we drove a lot. We really did try to see different parts of Kenya. They tried to show me Kibera, they showed me Modaiga, they asked me if I wanted to get on a matatu. The matatu three takes, so but I said no because I've been on taxis. But the matatus are so different to the taxis in the decoration. It's like a taxi mixed with a bus, and then it's decorated like there's decorations of Bob Marley and all these musicians. And Kenyans really do interact with music from everywhere in the black world. And another thing that Kenyans love ke speed. Ba rata go speed. Wa utlwa koloi ke mo e tshitshiriza ke tshaba ke le mo vaneng mo morao ke re wa le tshitshiriza koloi le speeda koloi ke le teng kopa yo relax, 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 relax. But it was fun. And how like people are very hospitable. I just told people about my project and they pulled strings to help me, and being able to watch people perform, goof around, share their playlists with me, tell me to Shazam songs because of my project, because ngifuna ukudocumenta Isgubhu Somphakathi, yabona, the drum, the beat that moves the society. And a very big part of it is when you were at the protest, you would hear boom. And I never went to the protest. I was just next to the protest for some few days when I was at this other hotel, and I would hear the tear gas, but then I'd also hear people chanting, and I'd also hear music. And even when you watch the videos on TikTok, it was all about how sound drives certain things, even the sounds and the rustling of the trees when we were at the giraffe enclosure. And when the giraffe, I think it bit the child, and the child was like, oh, the giraffe is lambami. And I was like, oh. Another thing that struck me was that when they were making music, they really mixed hip hop and Kenyan sounds and Kenyan references. And so a lot of the times I didn't really understand. And I think Kenyan culture is a very insider culture. Like you have to be one of the girls to get it. You get what I'm saying? Because I feel like maybe for Nigerian culture, you don't always have to be one of the girls. For some of the South African culture, you actually have to be one of the girls because it's always in Bernac. And so I really needed the people to translate sometimes or to explain certain references. And even when we went to the country club, we went to the Smudaiga country club, and they knew so many people. I was like, how is Nairobi so small that you know everyone everywhere? Whether we're in Kibera, you know people. We're in Mudaiga, you know people. Is it Lamington, you know people. How how is Nairobi like connected? And I would say that it's similar to Johannesburg, but I do think that in terms of class, Johannesburg, and race, Johannesburg is more, divided. And Johannesburg people aren't always so accommodating if they don't see you as, a person of value. And I really loved this. Like, look at me, jiving. And there were times when I was sick, and I was just like, you know what? Let's just walk around. Let's just enjoy. I went to record a podcast with one of my friends. It was really nice to be asked certain questions. I was asked the question, which men do you prefer? None. And they didn't put that in the interview because I'm like, no, I'm okay, thanks. Here I am sick out of my mind, child. But I went out because I was like, we're exploring music and how music drives every part of the Kenyan economy, whether politically, recreationally. I loved it. Thank you, Kenya.